Alright folks, we are back in Civilization VI once again, continuing our campaign with Queen Seondeok of the Korean Empire, and I have sufficiently calmed down after losing out on the Chits and Itza World Wonder, and that's due in part to the fact that I have eliminated almost every trace of rainforest from most of my cities. So maybe that wasn't the best way to cope, but overall I think it wound up being worth it in the end because we've got some very, very powerful cities that are slowly but surely growing into something very impressive. So Science Hill 2.0 has officially been completely surrounded on almost every side by a mine. So they're getting a buttload of production and additional science from each one of those. The tiles are spread out between two different cities, but still, the fact that we got a mine on every tile is amazing. We also have an industrial zone over here by the water, which is surrounded by mines as well, so that's getting a nice adjacency bonus. And the reason this industrial zone is by the water, and there may have been a place that would have been slightly more optimal for it. I think maybe this farm tile would have been a slightly more optimal industrial zone, but we put it here because I wanted to build my favorite wonder in the game, the Venetian Arsenal. So now every time we produce a boat, we get 2 of them. So we essentially get a free corp every time we get a boat without actually having to produce a corp for more production. We don't even know how to make we don't know how to make corps yet, but we can combine them, but we can't actually produce them in our cities. But it's cool. The Venetian Arsenal, it looks really, really pretty, and it's incredibly powerful, especially when you consider the fact that the enemy civs have a lot of coastal cities, so we could really put a number on them. Now, a part that I cut out from the previous episode was Macedon attacking me. I'm going to get revenge at some point. Probably going to... I might just nuke him, but I also might send a ridiculously powerful navy around to just cripple all of his coastal cities and have some fun that way. But for now, I feel like I've finally figured out the last little bit of nuance for Korea to push her over the edge and turn her into the domineering civ that she is. And it's the fact that she's not all about the science. You need a little bit of that culture as well. Because without culture, you lose out on the civics and the policy cards that give you big advantages in production. And without the science, you don't get the strong units and the new buildings and stuff. So you need a little bit of both. So you'll see our science per turn is 131 at turn 113. It's pretty solid. Could be higher, but it's okay. And our culture is 100 per turn. Gold as well, 135 per turn. So we're a very balanced civilization. The reason our science isn't as high as it could be is because we didn't expand out to these last 2 places that I wanted to capitalize on. We could have had at least 1 more campus right on this hill. We would have replaced the marble because we already have an excess of that. Or we could have maybe even placed it here. And this place, I believe there's a spot for a campus somewhere around here. But either way, we're doing very well for ourselves. We may try to expand out a bit further. I think that's a barbarian outpost that I should probably destroy. But yeah, we've done a great job, and we're just gonna go the rest of the way and get a true science victory, and I'm excited for it. So I'm gonna give out a couple of promotions to my rangers and continue producing stuff. We just recently finished building a world wonder. I don't even remember which one it is, so I should probably just reconfirm the name. We're pretty much tied with all the AI civs for our position in the tech tree, which is fine, but we'll start blowing ahead as we start trying to pinpoint on specific researches like nuclear fission and stuff like that. Or maybe I'll fill out the whole tree, who knows. Here it is. So this is the wonder that we just finished. It awards 2 randomly chosen free civics when completed, must be built on flat land adjacent to a theater square district, and it gives great writer points, great musician points, and it holds a great work of writing and music. And it looks very nice, which is my main modus operandi. I want my cities to be beautiful, and that's what we're getting. We got a nice clump of districts over here. So, with all of that said, The name of the game is Civilization... No, I'm kidding. We're not done yet. With all of that said, the last few things that we need to do are start up some productions. And the only thing that's really lacking is nothing, really. I don't think we're lacking on anything. So there's nothing that we necessarily need to prioritize. But I want to make sure that at the very least I get things filled out. So I'm going to finish the armory and then the military academy for some housing. And sure, why not medieval walls? We may as well get that done too. And I think everything else is occupied at the moment. We are building a settler in Dead Village, so we will eventually fill in these slots that I have marked off, if only for the crabs, so we can get some extra gold generation. We're getting 100, well, it went down from 135 to 118. I'm not sure what caused that, but it's not really a significant drop. Oh, a trade route stopped. So yeah, making sure to have a good culture gain and a good science gain is definitely the key for us finding any sort of success. Because if we weren't even, then, you know, we wouldn't have the appropriate civics to complement our empire. And we're sailing around with our privateers exploring the enemy territories to see where we're going to strike when the time comes. And so yeah, making sure that we have that diversity and that ability to match our civics with our current levels of technology, it's very important. And I imagine the broadcast center is going to be important as well. I'm actually a little bit torn on whether I'm going to go full on for the science victory or maybe if I'll shift over to culture, because if I could scrape together a culture victory, that'd be an interesting experiment for Korea to see if she's even well suited for that. You know, I imagine she's decently well suited for it because her basic benefit is that cities with an established governor generate an additional 10% science and culture. So I feel like, you know, there's a nice play with that. So yeah, man, really the final verdict for this Civ is that she's cool, if not a little bit boring, but she puts in work, and I'm pretty happy with her overall. You know, I don't think she outshines Robert the Bruce, which is probably my favorite Civ in the game, period. Because the trick with Korea versus Robert the Bruce, he doesn't have any special buildings. He gets the special thing, the golf course, which is very powerful. And he's not really focused on any particular victory condition. But he's good at anything he does. And that extra bit of flexibility, coupled with the fact that he gets additional production when his cities are happy, it makes him feel like he doesn't have the arbitrary restrictions that you have when you're playing as Korea, where you have to, oh, okay, I've got to only build my science districts this way, and I have to do this a certain way. I feel like when I'm playing Robert the Bruce, another bare-bones Civ that doesn't have any nuanced strategies to work with, I feel like I'm not being arbitrarily forced to do something different. And that's a positive thing as far as I'm concerned. So it looks like Macedon is flippin' gigantic, but he has a lot of coastal cities, and it looks like he's even pushing towards my empire a little bit. But I definitely think we could hurt him in a big way and really cripple him, maybe even take him out of the fight completely, especially if we have a strong enough navy. Because we have a bunch of privateers right now, and I think the privateer promotes into a submarine. I'll just check on that real quick. Yes, it does promote into a submarine and then into a U-boat. So if I can get that technology down, I'll probably be able to raid the hell out of the coastal tiles that Macedon has. And one thing that I mentioned I was going to talk about was the fact that the unique unit for Korea, I don't think very highly of it, and I most certainly still do not think very highly of it. And we'll talk about it a little bit right now, and I'll run some clips in the background that will showcase the fact that it's powerful, but it's not unique, and it's ultimately a fun showing that will get trounced on very rapidly. So the problem with the unique unit for Korea,
I think the human
as far as I'm
race
concerned, is the fact that it literally is not stronger than anything else in the game. It is the exact same unit as the standard field cannon. So any other Civ can just run around with their field cannons and do the exact same thing that I'm doing. Except I get mine sooner, but I probably don't because I'm probably not generating that much more science than you. And if I am, you're probably not a threat anyway, so it wouldn't even really matter if I killed you or not. That's my problem with her unique unit. It just doesn't feel like it has enough of a reason for existing. It's just, it's good, it's cool that you get it early, and it'll defend the hell out of your empire. That's the really nice thing about it, is that you can build a couple of these things, and if anybody tries to fuck with you in the Renaissance era, they'll get destroyed. But if they've got a bigger army than you, if they've got a lot of musketmen, then they will just bulldoze over you. And even if they have a decent force of crossbowmen with backed up by knights and musketmen, they'll have enough force to push over you, and you'll ultimately lose. It's just not all that it's made out to be. And maybe it's not even made out to be that strong, but it's just not that good. Now, we have the opportunity to build a buttload of spies, and we're going to do that and send them all over Macedon and pillage as many of his tiles as we can with them, or sabotage his districts. We're going to try and get a lot of gold out of him. I think that'll be pretty helpful for us. Because if we mess with his gold and get gold for ourselves, then that'll help with the improvement of our districts, because I have the special perk with hey, he's gonna give me a book for a luxury and coal. Yeah, I'll do that, Peter. Give me that book. So I have the governor Rena over here in Baristaburg, and she enough, and she has the special perk. Well, anyway, I must have forgotten that I didn't get this perk, but she has the special perk Contractor, allows your city to purchase districts with gold, and that is crazy. It could really spiral you out of control if you have enough gold to actually make the spiral happen. So that's the next promotion I'm going to take, and I'll probably use her to beef up the new cities that I'm going to found next to the crab resources. Now, one thing that I've got to try to do is get all of these artifacts from out of my empire, because if I am going to go for the culture tourism victory, I'm going to need as much of that stuff as I can get my hands on. So I'm going to work on a theater square district in Bananaburg. I'll just plop it down right next to the commercial hub. This place has 4 adjacent districts, so it's getting a nice adjacency bonus. And once that's done, we'll probably end up purchasing at least the amphitheater and building these slower buildings manually. And you know what? I'll build a watermill first, just so we get the +1 production that the watermill provides. I feel like I should make use of that. And we do have wheat in the city, and wheat gains additional food when you have a lumber mill. So I think we've sufficiently explored Alexander's empire up to the northeastern side of his borders. So we'll just continue going around with this privateer to the western side of his land to see what he's got. And this is the border of France over here, and it looks pretty okay. Now, we just finished a listening post in his capital, so we have an extra level of diplomatic visibility. The next thing I'm going to do is gain sources here to increase my chances of siphoning funds. So we'll do that, and then we'll get underway with the real meat and potatoes. And he's got a world wonder over here, so I definitely would love to steal this city from him. It'll be tricky to actually keep it, because the pressure from other cities is going to be pretty strong. But we might be able to change that if we settle all up along this coastline. So we're officially in the final stages of the game, though, so it's really just working really hard to get our victory condition secured. And it would probably be beneficial for me to decide between culture or science victory, because then I could target it a little bit better and know I'm not giving you any of my books. But I do like the idea of gunning for both until it's absolutely necessary for me to decide one way or another. Because if we look for a minute at the score rankings, nobody's done any of the triggers for a science victory, none of the major steps. For culture, France is pulling ahead, but very, very slowly. She's got 7 out of 80 tourists, and we're definitely going to start catching up a bit as well, because we've got a lot of domestic tourists to compete with her, and we're doing okay in the culture per turn. The UI is a little jacked up, but we'll get it sorted, and I think in the long run we'll be able to win. And hey, we got a great engineer. Triggers the eureka moment for the computer's technology and lets the city build one more district than its population limit allows. That's pretty cool, and I suppose New Lake City will be the one that we use it in. It's always kind of fun to have a capital that reigns supreme. So we'll head over here, trigger the eureka, and then bang bang boogie boogie.